Hey guys, welcome back. Sorry if this video is a little late. I've been super busy recently. And you know what? If you've been following the finance news and finance world recently, you would know that the rest of the world has been super busy as well. So namely, I'm talking about the news that just came out this weekend that Warren Buffett is buying gold. Well, okay, he didn't actually buy gold. He bought shares in a gold mining company, namely Barrick Gold, which even then is still highly unusual for him to make a move like this if you know anything about Warren Buffett's opinions on gold. So we're going to talk about that today, and also I'm going to give you guys an update on some of the moves that I've been making personally in the stock market. And I think that those updates are a little too short and quick for me to make a whole video about them each time I make a move. So it's perfect for me just to stick them into a video like this quickly and just bring it up and mention them. Also, lastly, I'm going to talk about something that I think is a little bit concerning in regards to our broader economy. And yeah, I think it's something that we should all pay attention to. So lots to talk about in today's video. And without further ado, let's jump in. Okay, well, number one, let's talk about Warren Buffett buying gold. You might be thinking to yourself, if you're not familiar with Warren Buffett or with the gold industry in general, you'd think, oh, what's the big deal about Warren Buffett buying gold or buying shares in a gold company, right? He didn't actually buy gold, once again. But yeah, what's the big deal, though, about Warren Buffett buying Barrick Gold shares? Well, if you know anything about Warren Buffett, you know that he's not the biggest fan of gold. Let's just say that. So in the past, he's called gold magic metal. And let me just read you some of the comments that Buffett made about gold back in 2010. So he says you could take all the gold that's ever been mined and it would fill a cube 67 feet in each direction. For what it's worth at current gold prices, you could buy, not some, all the farmland in the United States. Plus, you could buy 10 Exxon Mobils. Plus, have $1 trillion of walking around money. Or you could have a big cube of metal. Which one would you take? Which one is going to produce more value? So Warren Buffett's main gripe with gold is that it just kind of sits there and looks pretty and it doesn't actually add to production, right? It doesn't produce any value. Now, granted, some of you might be mentioning, oh, well, it might not have been Warren Buffett himself that made the decision to buy Barrick Gold. It might have been one of his lieutenants. And fair enough, it might not have been Buffett himself to make the decision to pull the trigger to buy gold, but at least he signed off on it, right? So that means that at least he didn't disapprove of this move. Otherwise, it wouldn't have happened, right? Because he's still in control of Berkshire Hathaway, he's still the CEO and whatnot. And also, as part of the news that Warren Buffett has bought gold, I think another thing that kind of flew under the radar was Buffett sold a lot of his shares in big banks like Wells Fargo, JPM, and selling out of Goldman Sachs completely. So I kind of feel like this flew under the radar with his whole gold thing, but I actually think that this is quite significant as well, if not more significant than the gold thing. And the reason is because this is a very unusual bearish move by Warren Buffett, who's typically a perma bull, right? So you know that Warren Buffett's always been the original hype beast of the US economy, right? So he's always advocating for the one who's, betting on the long-term success of the US economy. And in the past, he's kind of invested a lot into banks because he says that banks kind of represent the US economy as a whole. And, betting on banks is betting on the US economy in the long term. So the fact that he's selling out of a lot of his shares in big US banks, it's not positive news. Let me just say that. Which brings me to my second point, which is if the economy is not going to do well, then what should you do, right? Where should you hide your assets? Because every day it passes, it becomes clearer and clearer to me that being in cash is a bad idea. Back in January, Ray Dalio, the head of one of the biggest hedge funds in the world, Bridgewater Associates, he did an interview with CNBC where he said cash is trash. So every day it passes, it seems like Dalio's more and more correct because the Fed and central banks around the world are printing money, and that just devaluates the currency that we currently have, right? It devaluates fiat currency. And in the US, Congress is still debating on the exact size of the next stimulus package. Now, what's holding them back currently is that they can't agree on the exact size of how big the package should be. From what I heard, that the Democrats want a $3 trillion package, while the Republicans are only willing to go up to $1 trillion. But essentially what this means is that the next stimulus package, it will inevitably happen because there's going to be a next stimulus package, even though they can't agree on the exact size right now. And the next package will at least be be $1 trillion. And guess where that money is going to come from? It's going to be printed out of thin air, right? The US government it doesn't have $1 trillion worth of like taxes collected or anything. It's not money that they have currently. It's just going to be like kind of poofed into existence, into thin air. So yeah, that money would have to be printed. And recently I've been joking around with friends and stuff and being like, I really don't feel like we're in a recession because, everywhere I go is hella busy. And, all my friends have been telling me the same thing essentially because I have a friend who works at Starbucks and basically he's telling me how there's just nonstop traffic at his store, right? So from like 7 a.m. in the morning till whenever Starbucks closes, the drive-thru is just always packed, like nonstop, all day, every single day. And one of my coworkers today told me that this past weekend, he was out with some friends and they went to like 5 or 6 different bars and restaurants and none of them had seating. They were all completely packed. Now, granted, a lot of places in Toronto, I think like almost all places in Toronto only have patios that are open, so they don't have like seating indoors, or if they do, is very limited seating. So the seating capacity is probably a lot lower than usual, but still, the fact that he went to like 5 or 6 different restaurants and there were no seats, that is just crazy. And let me tell you guys a little story. So I'm actually looking to buy a rental property right now because interest rates are so low and I just want to take advantage of the low like mortgage rates, right? And this past weekend, my realtor took me to view some houses, and a very small house, like less than 1,000 square foot townhouse in Barrie, Ontario, which is close to where I live, is gonna easily go for $500,000 right now. Just let that sink in for a moment. $500,000 for a townhouse that's less than 1,000 square foot. And I saw this one that I was mildly interested in, and then the house got like 7 offers the first weekend it was available. In fact, 90% of the houses that my realtor showed me, they were gone within a week, and pretty much all of them were sold above asking. So she told me in normal times, a house on the market here in like Barrie area, it would be around on the market for around like 30 days before it got sold, right? So now the average is 3 days. 3 days, guys. So you can think about that for a sec. So literally the liquidity of houses is better than like, I don't know, Intel processors on eBay, right? Like if you had a CPU that you wanted to sell, if you had like computer parts that you wanted to sell on eBay, that would sell slower than your house. So that's absolutely insane, guys. So I'm going to be honest with you guys. I don't think I'll be able to buy a rental property actually, because like I didn't know the market was this crazy when I entered in, right? So yeah, there's no way that like some guy like me is going to be able to outbid like 7 different people, right? And like most of them probably have a lot more money than me. So yeah, there's no way. And last example, a couple months ago, I was trying to bid on an Amazon return pallet, which if you guys don't know what that is, basically it's like there's this warehouse where they like take in stuff that people have returned to like Amazon or wherever, right? So most of the time Amazon, they don't want to bother restocking the stuff if somebody like returns it, just because they don't want to have to go through the effort of like going into each box and like testing everything to make sure it absolutely works. So it's just too much effort for them and it's not worth it for them. So instead of restocking stuff that people have returned, they just kind of liquidate it and they just like sell it in terms of like a return pallet. And then what this warehouse does is that they gather all this stuff, they put it into one package, it's called a pallet, and then they auction it off so that you can like bid on it online and you can auction. And then what I try to do is that I try to like buy these pallets for cheap because they're like going for basically pennies on a dollar, right? Usually. And then you can like try and flip them on eBay or something if they're not broken or if they're working, right? So anyways, I try to do that, but I saw this bundle that had a bunch of Razer phones in it, and I'll show you a picture of what a Razer phone looks like in case you're not sure. But just to tell you, retail price right now, I think those are about like 400 Canadian dollars on eBay right now. So that's the retail price, or sort of the used retail price. And it goes about for $400 if it's working perfectly, right? If there's nothing wrong with it. And when you buy these bundles, you're buying it as is, because you can't be sure whether something is broken or not. So, this pallet I saw had 8 Razer phones in it. So there's a chance that, maybe 2 or 3 of them might be broken, or it might be like smashed to bits for all I know, right? So you got to factor in that risk as well. But assuming that they all work, that makes a bundle to be worth about $3,200. And also there's some other stuff in the bundle, like there's an old Huawei, which is pretty much worth nothing in my opinion, just because it's like a really cheap and old phone. It's not like one of the newer, like nice Huawei. It's not like the P20 Pro or something. It's just like a really like shitty one. And it's like a drug dealer burner phone essentially, in my opinion. And there's other like few items in the bundle that's really not worth that much at all. So let's just say that the bundle is worth $3,200 max. Point is, if you're paying anywhere close to $3,200 for it, you're overpaying because retail is only worth $3,200. And keep in mind, you have to bid a lot lower than $3,200 if you actually want to pay $3,200. And that's just because there's taxes and then there's also a 10% buyer's fee. So here in Ontario, the tax is 13% plus another 10% buyer's fee. So you can't bid anywhere close to $3,200 if you actually want to pay $3,200 at the end just because of the buyer's fee and the taxes. So yeah, if you actually end up paying $3,200, that's also a bad deal because best you can do is break even in that case if your intention is to just flip it on eBay, right? So let me show you the winning bid though. The winning bid for that bundle with 8 Razer phones, as I said earlier, the winning bid was $3,300. So before taxes and buyer's fee, by the way. So the buyer ended up paying probably just over $4,000 for that bundle. So, you know, like why? Well, cash is trash, I guess, right? So let me tell you, everyone is spending money like crazy these days. No one wants to hold cash. And, you know, I saved up some cash on the side back in April and May. It's just because I thought that there might be a second crash, and clearly that never materialized. So now I'm just thinking, I kind of want to get out of cash as well. If you're wondering why I'm buying stocks right now, even when the market is at all-time highs, this is partly why, because I don't want to hold on to too much cash. And also, it's not like every stock is overvalued. Obviously, there are some deals that are still out there in the stock market. Not every stock is like crazy, trading crazy high, right? Like Tesla just hit all-time highs, by the way. Congratulations to my fellow Tesla shareholders, but man, like Tesla stock is like insane right now. Anyways, for example, I've decided to buy 100 shares of Stratasys at a cost basis of $14.73. I made a video on Stratasys, by the way, so I'm not gonna waste your time and explain it all over again. So be sure to check out that video, which I'll leave a link down in the description as well if you're interested. But, you know, long story short, to summarize, Stratasys is basically a 3D printing company, and I just think that Stratasys is really undervalued at the moment. Now looking at the statistics, you can see that they're trading at a price to sales of about 1.4 and a price to book of below 1. So Wall Street is clearly not giving them any respect whatsoever. If 3D printing really does take off in the future, I think I'll make a decent return on this investment. Anyways, the video's getting a little long, so I'll leave it here. Be sure to hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, and consider subscribing if you like this series. Be sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram, links down below in the description as always. And with that being said, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.